welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about king cake. King cake is something that is used in the celebration of Marti Gras in New Orleans. And this past week they celebrated Fat Tuesday. So I thought it appropriate that we make a king cake this weekend. King cake is a circular cake. It has a yeast dough, so it has a little bit more of a bread-like consistency, and is then decorated with a glaze and colored sugar in green, gold, and purple, the colors of Marti Gras. And then they insert a small plastic baby in the bottom of the cake. Supposedly, whoever gets the baby in their slice has to bring the cake for the next year and gets to be king for the day. So let's see who gets the slice. The first thing we're going to do is bloom our yeast. So we're going to take our milk and honey and we're going to combine them and warm them in the microwave until the honey dissolves, and the milk should be warm to the touch, but it shouldn't be boiling. And once that has occurred, we're going to add our yeast and set it aside for 5 minutes so that it can bloom. After 5 minutes, you should see some bubbling happening. That's how you know that it is active. Adding our honey to our milk. Now going to melt our butter. Okay, so our next step is to start to get the dough together. We're gonna first mix in our milk yeast mixture, and we're gonna scrape the sides and make sure we don't lose any of that yeast. So make sure you really get it all in there. And we're starting with our whisk attachment versus our dough hook we will be using later. And we're also gonna add to that our butter. And then we're gonna add our eggs. And we're gonna add our salt and cinnamon and nutmeg. And last but not least, we're gonna add our extracts. The recipe says that you can use vanilla or a combination of vanilla and almond. I'm using a combination. And we're just gonna use our whisk attachment to get these ingredients to come together. Okay, at this point, we're going to switch our whisk attachment out and we're going to switch to our dough hook. And we're going to slowly add 3 cups of our flour to this mixture and slowly start to knead it until it's completely incorporated. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell, but the dough has pulled away from the sides. It's no longer sticking to the sides at all. It is soft. And it is tacky, but it's not sticky. When I push my hand into it, it's not coming away from on my hand. So it's tacky, but it's not sticky. That's what you want it to do. So now we're just taking a bowl and putting a little bit of oil in the bottom. And we're gonna transfer our dough to that bowl, flip it over once so that oil's on both sides. And now we're going to cover this with saran wrap and let it sit for about an hour until it doubles in size. Okay, to make our filling, we're gonna take our melted butter, some dark brown sugar, and our spices. And we're gonna mix all that together. It's gonna make like a paste. Oop. We make a mess, apparently. Okay, so I'm a bit concerned about my dough because I feel like it didn't rise as much as I expected it to. The recipe said that it should rise about double, but I feel like it's about the same size. That could be caused by possibly when I heated my milk, the milk might have been too hot and we might have hurt our yeast in the heat of the milk. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna keep pushing forward and seeing what we come out with because we're already this far. So what we're gonna do is we're going to roll out our dough to a very thin layer. The recipe says to make it a rectangle of about 10 to 24 inches. So on my map, that's 10 here, and 24 would be wow, almost the whole size of this. So almost the whole size, a little narrower, but pretty big. So we're gonna do our best. It does say that it does need to be super thin. So super thin and quite large. So we're just gonna start rolling this out. Getting a square the best we can. We do wanna kind of keep this as much as we can in a rectangular shape. Now, a little bit of irregular edges is fine, but you do want it to be relatively rectangular. I think that's gonna be good. It's pretty thin. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna spread our mixture, cinnamon sugar, brown sugar mixture paste. We're gonna spread that on this, spread that onto our dough. Next step is to roll the dough. So we're just gonna start at the end, and you wanna do this, from end to end. And we're just gonna slowly roll this up with the cinnamon sugar in the center. Okay, the next step is to cut this in half. You want to leave the very, very top section connected because you don't want them to completely fall apart into two slices. It'll help keep them together a little bit down the line. But using a very sharp knife, cut it straight down the middle. And what you're gonna see is when you get them apart, you're gonna see all those layers from the cinnamon sugar. I'm just gonna separate this out. I'm gonna make sure that I cut the whole way through. I'm just gonna roll this out. So pulling the center up, because you wanna see those lines, we're gonna twist. So we're gonna bring this to the center, and then we're gonna twist this over top of it. Pull this a little bit further over, then twist this on top. And you wanna keep those layers exposed. So don't twist by putting them underneath. Keep them up so you can see those pretty layers the whole time. And then, as soon as you get done twisting them, then we're gonna make them into our circle. So you can twist this open a little bit, and then you can put these two together, these twists together with these ends, and kind of pinch them together so that they look like they're, intertwisted. Okay, and into your circle. From here, onto our baking pan, cover it with our saran wrap again, rise for another 60 minutes, and then egg wash and bake. Okay, so it didn't rise as much as I'd like, so I feel like that just tells me that probably the heat of my milk was maybe a little too high and it probably killed my yeast. So we're just gonna go with it. And so now what we're doing is I am coating this in an egg wash. This was just an egg yolk and some water. And I just mixed it together with a fork. I'm just going to egg wash my loaf. And the reason you do that is it just helps with browning. So it'll help get a nice golden color on your bread. And I have preheated my oven for 25 to 35 minutes after we egg wash it. And then we'll make our glaze and decorate. So the recipe says that don't be surprised if some of your filling comes out. Well, that's an understatement if I ever saw one. So hopefully it's still gonna have a lot of flavor. I think I'm gonna take some of this sauce that's in the center and still liquid and pour it over the layers. It will obscure some of the detail of the layers between, but the glaze is also going to do that. Okay, so while our cake is cooling, we're going to just start making our glaze. Right now I just have some powdered sugar and some milk and some vanilla extract. Okay, so I'm just going to take a fork and mix this together until it is completely combined. Oftentimes when you make a glaze, when you first start, it doesn't look like enough liquid. It looks like it's too dry. It's never going to come together, but if you just keep mixing, it will come together. Now you can also sift this powdered sugar so you don't have to worry about any lumps, but frankly, I'm just too impatient to do that. I just tend to just throw it in and mix it up. Okay. And that's it. Now you can change the consistency of this. If you wanted it thicker, you could add more powdered sugar. If you wanted it thinner, you could add some more milk. So the next step is to put our baby inside. Now you can get all different kinds of babies online, different shapes, sizes, designs. These are more religious in style with the little halo-like looking thing and the cloth. And this is just a typical baby, but any kind of style you want, they come. And I just bought mine on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive and they're just made of plastic. So what you want to do now, because our cake did not rise as much as we would have liked it to, it doesn't have a lot of like holes and space to stick the baby into. So I'm actually kind of worried about a baby that has his arms straight out, that it might be kind of hard to get a baby that has a depth into it, whereas this baby's a little flatter. So I think I'm gonna try to use this baby in our cake. From what I read, you wanna like kind of cut a hole in the bottom. So I'm gonna flip this over like this. I'm just gonna take my knife and in a completely random spot, oh yes, it's very dense because it should have risen much more. So maybe this is a bit of a fail. Completely randomly sticking my baby inside the cake, if possible, just under the surface. Sorry, baby. Okay. And then we're gonna flip it back over. So now we're gonna glaze this, and basically I've done a little setup with a sheet pan with a lip on it and some tin foil to help with cleanup underneath my cooling rack with my cake on top of it. That just allows for then the glaze to go down onto the bottom pan instead of pooling all around the cake. So I'm just going to ever so slightly go back and forth over the cake with my glaze. I don't want to completely cover up all of those beautiful flaky layers that we've created, but I do want glaze on all of the cake. You could use a spoon, would probably be easier than a fork, but as you can see, I've gone in with a fork. It's already looking beautiful. Now I want to keep my sugar actually in sections. I don't want to just like sprinkle the whole thing evenly around. I'm going to keep it in kind of sections. So I'm going to choose an area for the purple. And I think I'm going to keep it kind of along the striations of where they would be. And they'll stick basically anywhere that the glaze is. So if I want green, gold, purple, green, gold. So as you can see, we've decorated it with our purple, our gold, and our green sprinkles. And then I used some of these really fun extra large sprinkles just to kind of put a little bit of a twist on the top. And that's it. That's our king cake. I'm going to put it on a decorative plate and then we'll see who gets our baby. Okay, so that was king cake. As you saw, we had a couple issues. My yeast did not rise the bread the way it should have, and I suspect that was because my milk might have been too hot and killed the yeast. The other thing is this was the only recipe that I found that had you cut the bread down the middle and make the braid, and because of that we lost a lot of our filling. I think next time I would try it without the braid, and of course make sure that my yeast is not being killed with the heat of milk. Overall, I still had a really good time making this, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so that you get notified every time I come out with a new video. And give this recipe or any other king cake recipes a try. If you find one that you love, be sure to send it to me and I'll give that one a try. And if you make a king cake this year, I hope that you get the baby in the slice so you have an excuse to try and make another one next year. I know I will make one again, and I hope you do too. How is it? What do you think? Daddy got the baby! I'm okay! Hey guys, so I just wanted to quickly say that I made a second king cake because I just was so unhappy with the first one since the yeast went bad with the hot milk. So I just wanted to show you the results of that. I made sure that whenever my milk was hot and that the honey was dissolved, then I let it sit out for a while until it was just warm enough that when I put my finger in the milk, it wasn't hot. It wasn't uncomfortable for me to have my finger in there. So to me, that just says that it's warm, but it's not scalding. And that worked completely differently than when I did it yesterday. It was very, very foamy on top whenever the 5 minutes were up that the yeast bloomed. So I did take some photographs and some video of those steps that I did differently. I also did not cut the loaf this time and make a braid. I just left it solid and very little filling came out. So I'm very excited about that. But I wanted to take a second here and just show you the difference of a cross section of the first loaf versus the second loaf. So the first loaf, look how dense it is. It's very dense inside here. Not flaky layers. You can't see the swirl, the cinnamon. It was just not very good. So that's the first one, like a rock. This one, which is the cross section of the second one, is so much bigger, first of all, and also look at all those little holes that make it nice and squishy, and you can see the cinnamon swirl layer. So so much better. Now we haven't eaten this one yet, and so this slice does not have a baby in it, but there is a baby in the second one. So we'll see. Maybe someone else will get the baby other than Ben. Maybe one of the kids will get it, but we'll see. So I hope that you guys give this recipe a try, or at least give king cake a try, and let me know what you think of this pastry from New Orleans. I can't wait to try this second one because I was so disappointed in the first, and this already feels so much more light and fluffy. And I hope to see you guys soon.